know about you, but I personally do not believe in gods and goddesses. Except when I do. And here's how you can too. Hi, welcome to Kick-Ass Switch, putting the K in MAGiCK. I'm Joanna DeVoe, and you're watching a video about how to work with personified deity even when you don't believe in personified deity. The trick is you have to believe in personified deity if you want to work with personified deity. So how do you make that happen? I've made this happen for myself quite accidentally. I think the first God I worked with was Jesus. I loved Jesus. I believed in Jesus with all of my heart. I talked to him on a daily basis. I started my day praying. I prayed during the day. I prayed at the end of the day, and I was pretty sure Jesus was talking back to me. You probably already know this about me because I've shared it a lot, but I had a crisis of faith in my teens and went on this woo-woo, new age, exploring the Eastern traditions and philosophies and Buddhism and landing on witchcraft and kind of just taking everything I learned along this mega massive decades-long journey with me and whatever stuck. So the first God that I really started working with, I really loved Buddha. I used to have a lot of Buddhas around my house, but the one that I actually worked with came to me, and I say came to me, I don't remember how. I don't remember what the instigating moment was that I was like, oh, I'm gonna work with that deity, but it was Ganesh. Some people say Ganesa, some people say Ganesha, I say Ganesh. And I've got quite a few images of Ganesh in my house still, but Ganesh came to me when I was desperate. I was desperate, I was in a bad way, and I really needed help. And I learned that Ganesh was the remover of obstacles. So I started saying, there's a lot of different chants that are associated with Ganesh, but I think when you get to a certain point in your life, like a certain level of desperation, you'll be like, what am I gonna do? I'll stand on one foot and jump up and down and tap on my head and say blah 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 like 100,000 times if it'll work. There is a point, I think, where a lot of us, people on their deathbeds, if they don't have a sense of faith, they often can be converted to Christianity after a lifetime of atheism, because there's something about fear that can really find you grasping for something beyond yourself. So I did a lot of chanting with Ganesh, and I don't know if it technically removed the obstacles in my life, but it removed them within. I started to feel freed up. And I wasn't thinking at this point, oh, I'm working with personified deity. I'm working with a god. It was just this cool Hindu figure and this chant, this image that I could kind of focus on that felt friendly and empowering. In fact, my Book of Shadows, the homemade Book of Shadows I have, has an illustration that I did of Ganesh on the cover of it because I was working with him for such a long time. And I don't really anymore. Sometimes I'll bust out that chant for old time's sake, I guess, or if I'm working with a particularly sticky obstacle, but in general, I just enjoy the artwork now. So I got a little Buddha, I got a little Ganesh, and then you may have heard me talking, I don't know how you would avoid it if you've been listening to me for any length of time, about Athena. I personally associate her with the Queen of Swords. I know not everyone does that. I think I made it up. I think I did. Maybe I saw it somewhere, but as far as I know, I just made that up. I just saw the connection, and to me, the Queen of Swords is Athena, and Athena is the Queen of Swords. So I kind of use those interchangeably. But I've just always said in my life on YouTube that I don't believe in personified deity. And what that means is like an actual, like a real God that lives, somewhere up in the sky or on some other dimension that you can talk to and work with, that is a sentient being, that has a mind of its own, that will or won't work with you depending on if you're worthy, or maybe it's just such a great God it'll work with anybody that calls its name. That's really what I see as a personified deity. I'm not saying this doesn't exist. I'm just saying it's not something that I personally believe in, and belief is personal. So what I was saying at the beginning, when you have to believe in deity for deity to start working with you, is true. It's like magic. You have to believe in magic for magic to work. So when I was a Christian back in the day, especially when I was a small child and I loved Jesus, there was no doubt in my mind that Jesus was real. And for the Christians I know in my life, I hope they're not watching this video, because if you have that kind of faith where there is no doubt in your mind that Jesus is real and you can call on him anytime you need help or guidance, that is so powerful. That is precious. If, like me, you are very analytical, you like to question things, it might be harder for you to have that kind of faith, or you can end up losing your faith because you have a lot of questions. Whoops, I just got cut off there. Sorry. Picking up where we left off. So having an analytical mind is awesome, but when it comes to believing in magic, when it comes to believing in personified deity, that's where it can really start to get tricky. So then you have to leverage your intelligence and leverage your imagination to start building a belief in deity so that you can actually start working with someone. And this is what I did accidentally with Athena. I just got really engaged in her mythology. That's what actually first triggered me. When I say trigger, I use that word deliberately because I was reading about her mythology and I related very much to her, but in a defensive way. Like, I did not like the way this woman was talking about Athena. It felt very negative, especially in the way that she was talking about all these other goddesses. Like, I felt like Athena was getting dumped on for being intellectual and strategic and clever, and I really hate too that people only associate that with the masculine, because women can be that too. And women that are like that, I don't think are the product of patriarchy. I actually think it's the other way around. I think that women that say that's masculine, they're buying into the role that the patriarchy taught them, that men are clever and men are intelligent and men are strategic and wise, and we're just the emotional messes. So I could totally go down that road. Let's not, Joanna, don't go on a tangent. But my point is, I felt very defensive. So I started exploring her mythology and identifying with her more and more and more. I wrote a piece for my friend Dawn's blog, The Goddess Diaries, called In Defense of Athena. And I really couldn't stop. And Medusa comes into play with that, and Hypatia comes into play with that. I feel the same about this group of women that I call on for strength. And I kind of started working with Athena in the same way that I was working with Ganesh. And I kind of felt like, I get you. I see where you're coming from. I don't know why all these people don't appreciate you, but I appreciate you. And she started presenting herself to me in dreams and symbolism. Most of my friends are very goddess-centric. They love the goddess. They talk about the goddess. They work with the goddess. Most witches do. And I always just felt like I cannot get into that. I don't know what that's about. I don't relate to that at all. And one day I was driving in my car and I just asked the universe, like, if I'm supposed to work with a goddess, like, show me who it is. Like, am I supposed to work with a goddess? And then, like, moments later, I was stuck in traffic behind a giant water truck that said Athena in, like, big letters. And I was like, oh, that's so funny. Interesting. And then I drove a little tiny bit, like half a minute, I'm not even sure, a little bit further, once traffic got moving, and then I passed a building that said Athena, and it was some kind of care home of some kind. But the point was, it was like, boom, boom, 2 in a row, like right away. So that too was like right at the beginning of my Athena journey. So I think that's why people sometimes say they were called upon by like a god or a goddess, because all of a sudden it's just in your line of vision. It's just in your mind, and you can build on that. So if you want to work with a god or a goddess, that would be my first suggestion, is to just, ask the universe, like, who should I start working with? And then just be open to whatever clues cross your path. If it's going to be Athena, it could be an owl. Someone in the group I lead was talking about how owls kept coming to her, and she was wondering, is that an Athena thing? And yeah, it is. If you want it to be, you create your own world. Here's the thing too, that I really strongly do believe, is that we are the microcosm of the macrocosm, which means there's an entire universe inside of you of possibilities. I believe that source energy, the universe, the mysterious, creative energy that created all things, call it the big G-O-D, that we are each a part of that we are each a very unique expression of that. So if like this God, let's just call it God, is this big multifaceted diamond, like every single person is a different facet of that diamond, so that this God, this energetic force that's ever expanding, it's a bigger and bigger and bigger diamond all the time, so it can experience itself in all these different ways, and we're all super duper unique. So in that way, you can like go back to source, because you come from source at any time for wisdom and for guidance. Like you could just work with that, like the source within me. Like it doesn't have to be personified, but it makes a really cool focal point, and your creativity, your lens of experience is an asset to you. It's how you uniquely get to work with gods and goddesses, if you choose to. You don't have to. I have been a highly spiritual person for most of my entire life. And for most of my adult life, I did not work with deity. I did a lot of channeling and was very, very psychic, and did a lot of meditating, and I've been always very, very spiritual. But it's only in recent years that I've been actually working with personified deity in this way. They're archetypes, they're focal points of focus for your energy, and so that messages can come through in a really clear way, if that makes sense. I created a power tool, my first power tool. It's $10. And it's my favorite magic spell. It's one of them. It's creating thought forms that spring to life. And that will teach you, I will link to it somewhere around here, that will teach you how to use your mind to invest energy, not just your mind, all your energy, to invest it into the creation of a thought form, which could be a god or a goddess, or it could be anything. A little character, the way that it's presented in this, it's a power tool, but it's like a PDF and a video that shows you how to do this for yourself. But the way I present it is this cute little cartoon character that sort of like flits around, like going out into the world and doing your business for you. It's like a little pet spirit that you create out of your own mind. It's really fun work, but you can do that. You can totally use that to work with a god or a goddess as well. A long time ago, I did an episode of Hippie Witch, my podcast, and it was called, I think maybe Creating Your Own Pop Pantheon. It was about creating your own pop pantheon, and I talked about how I work with Tess McGill. Tess McGill is not a real person. She is the lead character in a movie directed by Mike Nichols called Working Girl. And I have seen this movie so many times, and I love this character so much. Gumption, Miss McGill, gumption. Gumption is why I love her. It is like what drives her forward. And it's just such a great movie because it's someone starting at the bottom and working through ridiculous levels of obstacles to finally get if not to the top, to her dream. And her dream is even better than she could have dreamed because she did the work. And I love that archetype. So Tess McGill became part of my pop pantheon. I work with Jack White, who is a real person. I call him my rock god. And the way I work with these people, entities, energies, obviously I don't know Tess McGill because she doesn't exist. I don't know Jack White, although I wish I did because I think he's one of the most amazing people on the planet ever of all time. I just kind of ask myself, like, what would Jack do in this situation? Or what would Tess do? So that too is like a gentle way in without freaking yourself out. If you're an atheist or if you have really rejected the idea of personified deity because of a really religious background that turned you off, you can kind of just sort of maybe read up on some mythology if you do want to work with a god and goddess, and then just start asking yourself, like, what would Isis do? What would Aphrodite do? What would a Thor do? Whoever you want to work with. And that reminds me of Thor. Like, superheroes are amazing for this. Rock stars, like I said, movie characters. There is a blog post down below. You may have heard me mention it last week in the mega vlog. I said I was thinking about writing this blog post. Well, I wrote it. It is the new Khaleesi archetype. For those of us that are Game of Thrones fans, do not read this if you have not seen. There aren't really spoilers in it, not too many. There are in the mega vlog from last week, but if you haven't seen, the last whatever, if you haven't seen this season, there are spoilers for Game of Thrones. But this is about working with Khaleesi. If you want to work with a pop pantheon, Khaleesi does not exist. She is a character in Game of Thrones, but there's a lot of, talk about thought forms. There's a lot of energy invested all around the world in this character, and people who work with thought forms generally believe that if a lot of people invest a lot of energy into a god or a goddess, or even a character like Darth Vader or Luke Skywalker, they start to take on a life of their own, and that they may even become sentient beings, which is a whole other debate. But it's an interesting thought to think about. Like, just out of curiosity, do you think that if a lot of people invest their energy, that actually creates a god and a goddess? I think you can do that for yourself at the very least. I know you can because I have. And because I'm an air sign, I come at things from an intellectual point of view. So I do a lot of research. So if you want to create your own pantheon, be it a pop pantheon, or you just want to work with like one god or goddess, just maybe Google around with an issue that you're having, like who is the goddess for whatever. Maybe like with me, with Ganesh, it was about having a rough time in my life, and he was the remover of obstacles. So start looking like what gods or goddesses are known for that, or think about some character from a book or a movie that you loved, a TV show, and that relates, that you feel like could help you through a situation or guide you through a situation. And then just start investing energy into it. Just start asking yourself, what would they do? You can journal, you can like script out little scenarios if you want to about what you think they would do, or tell your own mythology about how they're helping you, or you can research the mythology around them and get excited about the ideas that other people have had about these gods or goddesses, whatever they may be. I'm pretty loose about this if you haven't noticed. But once something really grabs hold of you, it does become a part of your personal practice. And I've been working with Athena now for quite a while. And I don't see that ending anytime soon. I think this might end up being a lifelong relationship. We'll have to see. Time will tell. But so far, so good. And it surprises me. I am surprised that I work with this kind of... listen to the last mega vlog if you haven't, because I give a really cool example of how I'm receiving guidance from... Sorry, I'm hitting a lamp right here. Of how I'm receiving guidance from this deity. Like, she's giving me guidance. I personally believe I'm accessing my higher self or source energy through this focal point, but who knows? And I live for the mystery, as I always like to say. So create your own mystery or tap into someone else's mythology and let me know how it goes. Don't forget to check out the blog post down below, the new Khaleesi Archetype. And until we meet again, much love, peace.